All right, I think we are finally live on YouTube. We are going to go fire up the Twitch stream right now so that we are on there as well. I'm waiting for good old OBS to load. Let me get back into get that going. So now we are now on Twitch. I'll give everybody a minute or two to come in as we are getting ready to do Champions Edition podcast here. Sorry that we kind of waited to the end of this week to do it. I was trying to do it earlier, but things get in the way, as they say. I might have to get in through Twitch this way. Twitch. My phone's almost dead, so we're gonna have to kind of bounce back and forth between the computer. As far as looking at comments on Twitch and on YouTube tonight, so we'll try our best to make sure we get everything the way we need to be. Try to see where we are at here. Click on us. Make sure the good old Twitch is up and running. So it's taking a little bit longer than it normally does. Normally I'm pretty much ready to go. But I know it's streaming. I'm just trying to make sure because I usually use my phone for the stream manager on Twitch. But how's everybody doing? This is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, getting ready to do our live record of the Champions Edition. So thank you guys for bearing with me as we just kind of work through a little bit of a difficult, well, I shouldn't say difficult, just a little bit of a different audio management here tonight than we normally do. I'm just waiting for the Twitch side of things, the actual loading of it going on, and it looks like everything's good on this side. So looks like we are good to go. So nobody is saying anything in the chat, which is okay. So we are gonna get going here. We're gonna start loading up our entry, our screen here. And hopefully everyone's enjoying their Friday night. I tried to do this early because I know some folks that are going to watch this are going to want to watch a different podcast that comes on usually on Friday nights. And I don't want to be overstepping my bounds on that. So I want to make sure buddies over at the that other podcast are able to do their show and not have to try to compete with ours. Not that I really think it's a competition. I think it's just, we each have our own thing that we do. All right, let me get my transitions in here. We're almost ready to go. Trying to think how many do I want today? Got that. I'll do this one. And I think that one. I think that should be enough. Should be good. Again, if this is the first time you guys are watching the video live, on either side, whether it's on Twitch or on YouTube, you do have chats that you can ask a question. So what I do is normally during the breaks of when, I do a segment and it uploads into Anchor, which is the platform I use to do the podcast, You guys have an opportunity to ask me questions, and I try to pop onto both sides of it, whether it's on the YouTube side or on the Twitch side of things, and I try to answer any and all questions you guys have. Just remember, this is a NASCAR podcast. I know sometimes I get random people that are watching these things and they have no idea what we do. So just remember, this is a NASCAR podcast. Try to keep it to NASCAR related things. I've had people ask me questions about like what kind of movies I like to watch and some random stuff. So just remember, this is a NASCAR podcast. This isn't a movie podcast or just a general topic podcast. This is strictly NASCAR focused. I try to keep it that way. So let's have a good show here. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. And I got to do a Facebook Live at some point because I know the Facebook crowd's missing this. So, all right. Let's go into this already. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby here, the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. Can you believe it? We've made it all the way through Phoenix. We are at the Champions Edition of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. So excited to go over everything that happened out at Phoenix Raceway. We have 3 new NASCAR champions. All 3 new ones, all first-time guys. No repeats, so I guess that's a good thing if you like having new champions. So we'll talk about Truck Series champion Sheldon Creed, the Xfinity champ Austin Cindric, and, of course, the NASCAR Cup champion. For those of you that are watching on Twitch and on YouTube, you see I'm donning the Chase Elliott gear because Chase Elliott is your 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion. And we'll talk about all that good stuff, all the races, all my kind of normal breakdown of it here on the other side of this break. The other thing we will talk about the 2021 news, some news that came out post the championship weekend. So we'll talk about Daniel Hemrick driving for Joe Gibbs Racing next year in the 18 Xfinity car, what that means for Riley Herbst. Ryan Preece, it sounds like, is coming back to JTG in the 37. What that might mean for guys like Corey LaJoie that still haven't solidified their cases. I mean, their ride for next year. What happens with Ty Dillon next season, and some other things. And then we also found out that Travis Mack is going to be Daniel Suarez's crew chief at the new Trackhouse team, which is Justin Marks' organization. And we're kind of keep plugging in the answers here. We're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It sounds like Kaulig might be getting closer to announcing the driver of the 10 car, which it really shouldn't be a surprise at this point. I mean, if it's not AJ Allmendinger, I'd say that would be the surprise of the all season. But I think we're going to find out that AJ is driving the 10 next year. We also found out that Freddie Kraft has officially signed a deal with 2311 Racing. He will continue to be Bubba Wallace's spotter. And I'm trying to think if we missed anything else that was recent news. I think we got everything in there. So we'll break all that down. We'll look ahead to the future episodes of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, kind of what we're going to do this off season. I know some people, take time off during the off season. As far as from podcasting, they take a little break because they've been doing so many episodes. There is going to be a break, but what we're going to do is we're still going to make a show that week. It's just not going to be a live show, and I'll kind of explain that process to you guys. And then we will also do some of the NASCAR for Rookie episodes in there. So we're still going to do episodes pretty much every week, I think with about 2 or 3 exceptions. And then we will have, brand new content. Once we hit January, we'll try to start doing some like preview shows, maybe go over some different things. So I kind of roll you through what this offseason is going to look like. It's really the first offseason we've really done consistent podcast through. So this is, kind of new uncharted territory, but it's a lot of the stuff we did on the Facebook Live stuff that we're just going to now do in a podcast form. I think people will enjoy that as well. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get the Champions edition of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast started right after this quick break. So now this is a good opportunity for you guys to ask questions if you want. I know there's a couple people watching, I think, on both sides of what I can see on my side, so that's kind of cool. So if you guys have any questions regarding silly season, whether you want to chat about Phoenix, whatever you guys want to chat about, It's all on the table here in these little quick breaks, because it does take Anchor a couple minutes to upload my content once I record it. So that's the purpose of that. And just a reminder, you cannot hear the show's intro or anything like that. Because I know sometimes when some people do podcasts, you can actually like they feed the audio direct in that you can actually listen to like what their show intro is and all that stuff. I don't have those audio capabilities, so you literally just hear what I'm talking about. And then if you really want to listen to the show, like the intro and all that, you can just find the episode and pretty much all major podcasting platforms. And now is a good time to kind of plug that. So you can listen to the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast pretty much wherever you get your podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Breaker, Bullhorn. I think there's another one we're on, Podcast Addict. I've seen a lot of views on there. I've seen some on Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. I could go on and on and on. I think Stitcher's another one that we just got on recently. So we're kind of all over the place. So if you're looking for us, just search your podcasting store for us. And if you can't find us on the store, just let me know. Via Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Pretty much everything is at the Crew Chief or at Crew Chiefs Corner. Facebook and Twitter, it's at the Crew Chief. Instagram's, I believe, at Crew Chiefs Corner, and then TikTok, it's at Crew Chiefs Corner. So that's kind of how that all kind of pans out there. Haven't done a lot on TikTok recently. We've just been posting like, hey, we released our latest podcast episode on there and stuff like that. I think that's kind of what we've been doing recently. But we've done a lot of the news stuff on there, which I thought was kind of neat. Tried to pair up some neat songs with them and stuff, and race results and stuff. I didn't post the race results for Phoenix, and a couple of things happened with that. I'm going to explain it now because I don't want to explain it during the podcast, but I just ran out of time this weekend to really get a chance to get around to it. And by the time I was going to post it, it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. And I figured at that point in time, pretty much if you didn't know who the champions were, or where guys finished or who won the races, you pretty much already knew. So I just decided not to post those things. But if someone really wants it, I can post it. I can go into the media site and get it and post it out. But I just decided that it was easier. Most people just wanted to know who won the championships. So that's why the post went up with the photos. That's going to remain up probably for the majority, if not the entire off season. I don't really foresee a reason to change it unless something dramatic happens, and I just decide to take it down, but I don't think that will happen. So that will be that. So let's get back into the podcast here. We just make sure nobody's got anything on the Twitch side of things. I don't see any questions here. And there's nothing on the other side. So we'll go right into the next segment here, which will be the race breakdown. All right, everybody, back here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey bringing you the championship races, the breakdown of them all. So we'll start with the Truck Series because they're the first race of the weekend. What a crazy truck race. You get started and it's the first race of the weekend. And sometimes you notice trends. I know a lot of people might not watch the truck races or they might not watch Xfinity. There might be just Cup only fans. Certainly when you go to the races on the weekends, pre-COVID, and you could go watch every race, you'd always notice like the Friday crowds were always light. The Saturday crowds would usually be a little bit heavier. And then the Sunday crowds were always the big draw. And I always used to think a lot of that had to do with, people maybe couldn't get all 3 days of the weekend off of work. Maybe they just went down and they could only get Sunday off because maybe they don't work Sundays, at their job or whatever, or some people just didn't have vacation time, whatever. I do think some of it is that people just don't watch the truck races and don't watch the Xfinity races. And some of it, I get it because, unless you watch the Truck Series every single week, you don't know a lot of these guys. You don't know who Sheldon Creed is. You don't know Sheldon Creed's background in racing. You don't know that he came from dirt, the dirt ranks, and he came over and crossed over into NASCAR. You don't know that Grant Enfinger was a local short track guy that got an opportunity really to drive for a couple different people. And then he, got a shot at ThorSport and kind of turned a lot of heads and has been very successful there. So, and then you look at Brett Moffitt. Brett Moffitt's been all over the map. He drove Cup for a little bit. He drove for Michael Waltrip Racing, had a phenomenal run in that 55 car. Gosh, it had to be, that must have been either his rookie. I think that was his rookie or it was either 14 or 15. It was either his rookie year or the year after that he ran for Michael in the 55, and he was filling in for Brian Vickers because Vickers was out with the blood clots. And that was before they went with David Reagan, because David Reagan was filling in for Kyle Busch. So that had to have been 2015, now that I'm thinking about it. But Moffitt, had an 8th place run that day, in a Cup car. And everybody's like, who the heck is this kid, Brett Moffitt? A lot of people didn't know him at that point in time. And now a lot of people know him because he obviously is a truck champ. And is run well in Xfinity, driving for Our Motorsports and stuff like that. So Moffitt's a name that, maybe some people know. Austin Hill's another name a lot of people don't know. Ran in the K&N series, which is now ARCA East. His dad and him owned a team, and then they bought into Young's Motorsports a couple years back, and they were fielding a truck for Austin. And then he split from that organization and then got Brett Moffitt's old job, driving the 16 for Shiggy Hattori. So Austin Hill is becoming a name that a lot of people are going to know in the next, I'd say, couple years for sure. Because, he's probably one of the favorites, in my opinion, for the 2021 truck championship. And then you have other guys in the series that are veterans. You have the Matt Craftons of the world, the Johnny Sauters of the world. Crafton's been in the truck series a long time. He has some Cup experience. He has some Xfinity experience, but you really look, Matt Crafton is a veteran of the truck series. Johnny Sauter has been all over. He's been in Cup. He's been in Xfinity, but he's primarily been a truck series regular. And then you just go down the list and there's, lots of, people are kind of, been all over the place. Spencer Boyd's another name that I think people are going to be hearing more of. Should he get a better opportunity? Not that Young's Motorsports is a terrible opportunity, but if he got an opportunity driving a little bit better equipment, I think he would be a name that you're going to hear more of. But then you look over at GMS, you have Tyler Ankrum, who won at Kentucky last year when he was driving for DGR Crosley. You have Zane Smith, who was definitely the breakout driver of the season in the truck series. Here's a kid that, jumped into an Xfinity car. And I'll be honest with you, when he drove that Xfinity car, for Junior Motorsports, I think, at least for me personally, I thought the kid was in over his head. I really did. I didn't think he had the experience to be in that car. And I guess that was part of why Chevy and the Driver's Edge development program decided with Zane, I think, to put him in a vehicle full time and it to be a truck versus just throwing him in the Xfinity car. I think he needed this. I think this was kind of like that confidence boost that a lot of these young drivers need before they get moved up. There's been a lot of debates that have been had over the last, I'd say, 10, 15 years about, when's the right time to move a driver up. And this is something we're going to talk about later in the show. So I'm doing a little foreshadowing or doing a little tease, but I think that sometimes these guys and girls in these series need, more than just a year, more than just 2 years. Sometimes you need 3 years in a series before you can move on. Especially if you're trying to, prove that you're a legitimate contender. And let's face it, I mean, you're going from truck to Xfinity is a jump, because the Xfinity competition now is a lot better than it's ever been. Even though you might not have the amount of Cup guys going down and running those races, you still have a tremendous amount of talent that is in that series. So I think that that's part of it too. Some of these young names, people they don't get a chance to get to know them, because some of them get rushed through the ranks real quick, and then you find out who they are when they get the Cup. But sometimes you get to find out who they are in Xfinity and trucks, and that's when it becomes a lot more enjoyable as a fan, because you get to kind of grow up with that driver. Especially if you're young enough that, hey, you're around that driver's age, and it's kind of like you kind of grow up with them. So that's kind of cool for some people. But I know we're getting way off topic here of the truck series, but I think you look at this race itself, it was really Brett Moffitt's race to lose. All right. Brett was dominating late in the race. I really hate it, for the guys over at Plan B Sales, or Circle B Diecast, as the retail side of the business is now known as. But really feel bad for Brent and the guys over there at Plan B and Circle B. They've poured, a lot of their heart and souls into these sponsorships, quite literally, putting together deals that, fans like myself and some other folks have been able to get their names on these cars and trucks over the years, and to come that close to winning a championship. I mean, 3 laps away. It was tough. It was a tough watch. It was a tough thing to have your heart ripped out of your chest in a lot of ways, because I'm sure that's how Brent felt. I know how I felt when I've been minor league associated with a program, and know how I felt when things didn't go the way you wanted them to. So I can only imagine when you're the one that's actually footing the bill for that race, knowing what that entails. I can only imagine what that felt like for Brent and those guys. But and even for Brett Moffitt, I mean, a shot at another Truck Series championship, quite literally not knowing what next year was going to bring for him, whether he was going to be back at GMS, whether he was going to move on. Obviously, now we know where he's going. We know he's going to Our Motorsports full time. He's going to drive that O2 car on a full time basis, and the capabilities of that race team. So it's no surprise that he's moving up. But I do think that, in the heat of the moment, Brett was really mad, and I know after the race he ripped the team. He ripped them pretty good. So, when the news came out yesterday that Brett Moffitt was not coming back to GMS, a lot of people weren't surprised. But I think the one trend you find out sometimes by going to these races and watching them, at least in person, is you get to find out sometimes about pit strategies. Arts, what are new tires worth at the end of the race when you get a late race caution? Is it going to be a track position kind of weekend? These are little things that sometimes you pick up by going to all 3 races. And I'm not saying that you have to in order to pick this up. I mean, you could pick this up by just watching the races like I did this weekend. But you saw that Sheldon Creed came down pit road, took, 4 tires. That was probably Sheldon's, in his opinion, and Jeff Stankowicz's, his crew chief's opinion, that was their best shot at winning that race. Was coming down and doing the opposite of what Brett Moffitt did. Now, if Brett Moffitt came down pit road and made the pit stop, maybe Creed would have stayed out. You don't know, but I think sometimes, when you have these big pressure moments, sometimes you find out what these guys are really capable of doing. I think Dale Jr. mentioned this during his podcast, the other day. The cream rises to the top in pressure situations. And I know Jr. kind of mentioned that he was never really good in those pressure situations. And you look at Chase Elliott, Chase Elliott has performed now in back-to-back pressure situations, whether it was Martinsville or whether it was this past weekend at Phoenix. And you look at Sheldon Creed performed in a pressure situation, in a situation that, his teammate looked like his teammate was going to win this race and win this race going away. And, he gets an opportunity a late race caution, one that, nobody really saw coming. You get a kid in Dawson Cram who gets turned around, and you end up with a late race restart, pit stops, and now all of a sudden, you're outnumbered. If you're Moffitt, you have all these guys with brand new tires behind you, and you're outnumbered, and there's nothing you can do. It's a hopeless feeling as a driver, I would assume, that you're outnumbered. All these guys behind you got brand new tires, and you're going to sit there and basically take one in the biggest spot of the season. And Sheldon Creed ends up with the win. So a nice win for him. I know a lot of people aren't thrilled with the championship format, whatever series it is, whether it's Cup, Trucks, Xfinity. I just, I think it adds a lot of excitement to it. I think that if we had the old format where there was no eliminations, I don't know. I don't know what the playoffs would still be like. I think it adds another layer to it, and it makes it harder. I think, you look at a lot of the professional and yeah, they're ball and stick sports. But I mean, I think you look at what makes the NCAA tournament exciting to people to watch. It's it's single elimination, and anytime your team could be a 16 seed and upset a 1 seed. Okay. Yeah, it happened once, but you don't just watch because you want to see the number 1 seed win. And I think that was one of the things that we saw, especially in these three series. The guy that had the best season didn't win in all 3 series. Sheldon Creed only had a couple of wins going into this weekend at Phoenix. He only had the win he won obviously last year. I think that was Gateway, but he won at the Daytona Road Course. He won a couple other, races, but he only had like 2 or 3 wins going into this weekend. The Daytona Road Course, I think, was his first win of the season this year. And then he had another win later on, or he had that win at Kansas, the rain shortened one. That was the one I was actually drawing the blank on. But he only had like 2 wins going into this weekend, and now he's coming up and he's got a championship. And a lot of people are going to sit here and say, well, Sheldon Creed, does he really deserve the championship? And I say, yeah, why not? These guys took a gamble. This was a gamble that this team took. Jeff Stankiewicz and his whole pit crew, performed a pit stop, got him out, got him in good position, and they were able to go out there and beat their teammate. And Brett Moffitt, now I'll play devil's advocate. If Brett Moffitt won the championship, a lot of people would have been upset about that, because think about it. Brett Moffitt had only won 1 race prior to this, and it was a playoff race. It's not like Brett Moffitt won a race during the regular season and then came back and won this championship. He didn't. That's not what happened. What happened was he won a race, got into the Final Four. He won at Kansas, and was able to move on. But if you look at, whether it was Xfinity, with Austin Cindric did not have the best car this year. That was Chase Briscoe, and Briscoe kind of beat himself at the end. He spun out late in the race and caused that crazy end of the race restart, in which Justin Allgaier, stayed out, and Allgaier gets, pretty much passed up left and right, and ends up, finishing, I think, 5th or 6th or whatever, and Austin Cindric's the Xfinity champ. And I think you look at Sheldon Creed and say the same thing. These were 2 guys that were like the second best guy in their respected series. Grant Enfinger really had the season. He had the most wins. He was the most consistent. He won the regular season championship. And he goes into the Final Four, and basically he comes up short, and he comes up second in the race and isn't able to win the championship. You look at the Xfinity side of things, Chase Briscoe was the dominant factor. He was the guy that every single race, he was the guy to beat. And then you turn around and look, and the car's not handling to his liking. He's not having a very good race. They're not able to make adjustments they're making adjustments, but they don't make the right adjustments to make the car good enough for Chase to go out there and compete for the win. And they spin, they come down pit road to get tires and all that stuff, and they still aren't able to make any headway. So you have a guy that won 9 races in Xfinity this year that didn't win the championship. And then you go to the Cup Series and you look at the Cup, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had 4 wins going into this weekend. He won his 5th race on Sunday. So Chase Elliott didn't have the most wins in Cup. The guy that had the most wins was Kevin Harvick. He was eliminated last week. And then you had the guy that had the second most wins in Denny Hamlin. He wasn't able to win the race at a place that he's been very good at recently. So it's just a zany weekend overall. But like I said, to put a ball in the Truck Series race, Creed did a nice job. Those guys really performed over there. GMS, well-deserved championship. That's a perennial championship winning team. I know this is, I think, their first actual truck championship, if I'm not mistaken. Because Moffitt was driving for Shiggy Hattori when he won his, and I don't think Sauter won one with them. So, this is going to be the first of many for this organization. Zane Smith's back with them next year. Sheldon Creed's back with them next year. They're going to also have Tyler Ankrum back, and then they just announced today that Chase Purdy is going to drive the 4th truck over there full time with GMS. So that's going to be a pretty solid race team over there for Maury Gallagher and Spencer Gallagher, and that organization is going to continue to win races and compete for titles. You just know that that's what's going to be what's happening. Now we're going to move into the Xfinity race. I kind of talked a little bit about it. Listen, I said this earlier in the year. If we got to the championship for Phoenix and Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, we're pretty much going to be locks, in my opinion. But the guys that I didn't know were going to be who was going to be the other two. Allgaier had a good year. He won those couple of races at Richmond. He's performed, pretty well. He won at Dover, and he's won at Phoenix in the past. He won there last fall on his way to get into the championship for last year at Homestead Miami Speedway. So you knew he was a guy to compete with. The other person, you kind of could plug and play. Noah Gragson, you could put anybody in there. We ended up with Justin Haley, which, again, not something that I would have sat there and said, wow, Justin Haley was on my Final Four at the beginning of the season. I would have said, no way. I really didn't think that was the case. I really thought Harrison Burton was going to kind of get in there. Harrison had a great playoffs. For a guy that got eliminated when he did earlier in the playoffs, he had a good couple of races there. He ran well at Martinsville. He won that race at Martinsville. He won at Texas. So he had a good playoffs considering he was on the outside. But, again, this race came down to a late race caution. What do you do? And unlike the truck guys who had 50 laps on their tires when Brett Moffitt stayed out and some of the other guys came down pit road, the guys in the Xfinity race had 25 laps on their tires. So it was less time. Austin Cindric came down. And I remember thinking to myself, these guys are out of their bleeping minds for coming down pit road. I just knew it. I knew they were out of their minds. But what I didn't know that Brian Wilson knew and that team knew was how valuable new tires were. I thought, with 50-lap tires, on the truck race, that would have made a difference. I didn't think that 25 laps would have made a big difference. But it made all the difference in the world, especially with like 3 laps left. That was the other thing that I looked at in both races was short sprints to the end of the races with brand new tires. Doesn't always work the way guys think it's going to, but it did. It did in both instances. And thank God for Austin Cindric, it worked out. Thank God his car was good because, I'm telling you, if Allgaier had a set of brand new sticker tires left in the arsenal there late in the race, they would have been dog meat because of how good Allgaier's car was on those short runs. That 7 car was amazing on the short runs at the end of that race. But that ended up costing them because they ran out of tires, essentially. And Austin Cindric had a set left, and he was able to power through and get the win. And he didn't need to win that race. He was kind of racing. I think it was Noah Gragson, kind of hard to win. And Gragson could have put up a real fight to try to hold him up so that, Allgaier could have gone up there and gotten in the mix. But Justin's car was just not handling the way he needed it to late in that race. So he was unable to get the job done. But congratulations to Team Penske, another Xfinity championship. I think this is their second one with the drivers' championship. I know it's like their fifth or sixth owners' championship, but I think it's their second ever drivers' championship in the Xfinity Series. So a big win for Austin Cindric. I think now this answers the question whether or not Austin Cindric belongs in NASCAR, because I think the question was valid before. I think going into 2020, that was a big question. Is Austin Cindric a guy that you're going to have to compete with to win a championship? Prior to 2020, I don't think many of us in any capacity, whether we're fans, whether we're the media or whoever, I don't think a lot of people would have said that he was that kind of a competitor, because he hadn't won on ovals. He won at the road courses, which is great, but that was his racing background. This kid was in sports cars. This kid was, destined basically to be an open wheel guy at one point in time in his career, but went sports car racing instead. So you look at Austin Cindric now a lot differently. I think you look at him as somebody that's going to be ready to compete in the Cup Series. I do think Team Penske made the right call in keeping him a year, as something we'll talk about later in the episode. Again, another tease. I think he's got it. He's going to be really good. So two really exciting champions that we have. And I think the future of this sport is bright. When you look at this weekend, you have the 24-year-old and Chase Elliott. Had Sheldon Creed, I think, was 23, and Austin Cindric's 24, 25. You have a lot of young kids in this series winning championships, and I think that this bodes well for the future of the series. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this break, we are going to break down the Cup race because it was a really crazy race. Maybe didn't have the exciting finish that the trucks or the Xfinity Series had, but I really do think that the Cup race deserves its own little segment, and we will do that right here on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. So one of the things that I think most people don't understand when I'm doing the podcast is I can only record up to 30 minutes in the actual app of Anchor. So I can record hours and hours and hours on my laptop, but I can't do it in the Anchor app. It's not physically capable of doing it. So I try to keep everything to around 30-minute, segments. So I was around 22 there, and I was like, I really don't think I can do this in 8 minutes. So I'm going to give the Cup Series its own segment. Hopefully it won't take 22 minutes to explain that, but we'll get there. Again, if you guys have any questions about silly season, any comments about the race out at Phoenix, please drop a comment in the live chats, whether it's on Twitch or on YouTube. I have both streams up right now. I can see your guys' comments. Hopefully you're enjoying. I see someone liked the live stream, so I appreciate that. At least on the YouTube side of things. Still processing on the Anchor side of things, so we'll wait. Another thing I usually like to talk about is the diecast. Any diecast I got in. The only one I got in so far this week is the Matt Kenseth Credit One Bank Elite. So I got that in, but I already showed that one prior with the autographed ARC. So no point in really re-showing it. It's basically this car, just the Elite model. And it doesn't have Matt's autograph on it, which, as I said on a previous episode, it's kind of hard to see Matt's autograph on this car anyhow. So it's kind of neat. The Credit One Bank car. They only made this one, and I think the one All-Star version of the Matt Kenseth McDonald's car. So I think those were the only two that were made this year. So got that. Let's see. All right, so it is process through, so we're going to put this in. So what I'm doing now is I'm just dropping in the transitions that you guys hear in the podcast. I'm just making sure those are in the right areas. And we're going to put that there. So that's ready. Boom, boom. And then cool, that's there. All right, so we're ready. Let's see anything on the YouTube side of things. And there's nothing over on Twitch. All right, cool. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Crew Cheese Corner podcast hosted by Bobby Bailey. This is the 2020 Champions Edition. Now we are at the Cup Series race breakdown. And let me tell you, this was a Final Four that if you asked me in the beginning of the season, I don't even know if I would have came up with this Final Four. Hamlin and Harvick obviously were the two dominant cars of the season. They traded wins back and forth pretty regularly. Harvick winning 9 races, Hamlin winning 7. And then you look at the guy that had the third most wins, believe it or not, going into the weekend, it was Chase Elliott. So Chase had 4 wins at that point after his kind of walk-off win at Martinsville. He needed that in order to advance. I don't think he fully needed it, but it definitely helped the scenario quite a bit by winning. And then you had Brad Keselowski, who was the king of the 750 horsepower package. Was basically the 4th guy that was really had a great year. Logano was in the Final Four, and Harvick was eliminated because Harvick had a really rough last 3 races going into the Final Four. So Harvick was out, and Logano was in, and you had a basically 50% shot at getting a repeat champion, and you had a 50% shot at getting a new champion. So it was going to be what was going to happen. And one of the things I said initially last week going into this week was I didn't think Hamlin had a shot at this thing. And I said, I think Hamlin chokes quite a bit. I called it last week. I really did think Chase Elliott was going to win this championship. And I just thought he was the hot hand, winning the Roval, winning at Martinsville when he's backed into a corner. I thought Chase had a real shot at this thing. Did I think Chase was going to win the way he won this race? Absolutely not. I thought this was going to be a dogfight of a race. I really did think that this was going to be something that he had to earn 100%. Not that I think this race was gifted to him, but the race kind of fell into his lap when you really think about it. Despite having a bad entry and exit off of pit road on that last pit stop, his words, not mine. You really look at this as Chase kind of just had the car. He had the car, he had the pit crew, he had everything going his way. For a guy that had to start at the rear of the field due to failing pre-race inspection twice, he had the deck stacked against him. He had his back against the wall yet again, and he was able to win this championship in a way that a lot of us didn't think was going to be possible, for Chase. I mean, you look at all the guys he was competing against. You had Logano, who was the most recent winner at Phoenix Raceway. Hamlin, who won here last year to get into the Final Four at Homestead. And you had Brad Keselowski, who'd won Richmond. He won at New Hampshire. He won at Bristol. So here's a guy in Keselowski who has wins at the 750 package tracks this season, and the most of them. And then you have Chase Elliott, who should have won Bristol in the spring, got in that accident with Logano, should have won the Coca-Cola 600, which he didn't due to pit stops late in the race. I think you really do look at Chase Elliott, and those are 2 wins right there that he didn't have. And if you put those in the win column, he has 7 wins then this season, the same amount as Denny Hamlin. So I think the people that are upset that Chase is the champion are probably people that just don't like the fact that this guy had a really good season and deserved it, and he was the champ. There was no late race caution that bit him, despite the fact that Chase kept thinking there was going to be one. It just never came, and it was just his day at the end of the day. And I'll say this: I mean, a lot of people ask me, why do you like Chase? Why do you like Chase? He's a popular guy, this, that, and the other. I like Chase because Chase is just a humble young man. He's not a arrogant person. He's just one of the boys. He's not a guy that's out there, acting like he's too good for you or too good for the situation. I know I've met Chase a few times, albeit very brief interactions. You could tell he's trying to do the right thing in pretty much all the situations I've ever met him in. He's been very humble, very quiet, but don't mistake in that for his fire as a competitor. He's a fierce competitor. He wants to win all these races. And I think a lot of us that have been Chase fans have been through the 6 second place finishes that it took before he got that win at Watkins Glen. All the restart failures, all the turmoil on pit road, all the things that you go through as a race fan. Insert your favorite driver here. We've all been through, and I think a lot of people that are Chase Elliott fans, were fans of other drivers, whether it was his father, whether it was Jeff Gordon, whether it was Dale Jr., whether it was now Jimmy Johnson. I think there's going to be people that are Jimmy Johnson fans that are now going to be Chase Elliott fans. Whatever your favorite driver was, people have gravitated toward this young man, and he's the most popular driver in our sport right now. And say what you want, but the most popular driver winning a championship is big. And I think Dale Jr. even alluded to it today, the other day on his podcast. Chase Elliott did something that only his father has done, which is win the most popular driver and win the championship. Now, Chase is probably going to win the most popular driver this season. So they're going to do it in the same season. Unreal, unheard of. Usually, especially with Dale Jr. I mean, Jr. had a couple shots at it, but Jr. never could get the deal done. And I think that was something that's always ate at him, that he didn't win the championship. I don't think it's something that he sits there today and it still eats at him, but I think it ate at him for a while that he wasn't a champ. I think he felt like, that was something he wanted to accomplish. And then that's something that he was never able to do at the Cup Series level. Yeah, he was able to win a couple Busch championships. But I think being a Cup champion is what all these guys are fighting for. But I did think it was really strange that we didn't have a late race caution. We didn't have a piece of debris. We didn't have a Quinn Half wreck. I hate to pick on Quinn, but we didn't have a late race caution that could have screwed Chase out of this championship, quite literally. So a big win for Chase Elliott Nation, a popular champion. I know that the merchandise sales are breaking all kinds of records. So make sure if you are a Chase Elliott fan and you want to get his merch, you better get it, because you don't know what in the heck is going to happen. But you better get it, because it is going to be quite a hot item. Whether it's the diecast cars, whether it's the hat, the shirts, the hoodies, the whatever, it's going to be a hot item. And a lot of people are going to be buying them. So it's crazy. One of the things I was thinking about, with Chase winning this championship, I was thinking about another topic that Chase a lot of times gets thrown into is the Silver Spoon kids. And I know a lot of people call the Silver Spoon kid Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon. And I think, sometimes we've talked about this in the past where I don't think that's always a fair assumption. I think you look at Chase really did strike the lottery when you look at how he ended up in this seat. Bill was a very revered driver. A lot of people liked Bill in that garage area. Make no mistakes about it. This was definitely a move that Rick made because he saw the talent in Chase. And I think Chase even alluded to it. There was a lot of people that didn't think he had his father's ability in him, and they didn't think he was going to be that great of a race car driver. But Rick Hendrick saw something in him, and I don't know who turned him on to Chase. I don't know if it was a Jeff Gordon call, was this a Ray Abraham call, what this was. I mean, I know, Bill was very revered in the garage area, but of everything I knew that, why wasn't Jack Roush going after this guy? Why wasn't, Penske or some of these other teams going after Chase? Why was it Rick? I couldn't tell you, but I remember when he signed a deal with Rick to drive, for him in that development deal, and they were moving him into the trucks, and he drove that 94 truck for Bill Elliott Racing, which was essentially a Turner Scott Motorsports truck that was built by them, by Turner Scott, and it was sold off to Bill Elliott, and they ran that team basically out of the back of Hendrick Motorsports. They ran that out of the R&D building, out of the back of the R&D shop. So that was a humble beginning for that young man, and he drove that 94, and he won that race out there at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park by wrecking Ty Dillon, ironically. And that kind of led him into the Xfinity Series for Junior Motorsports, where he drove 2 full-time seasons over there. It would have been quite easy for Rick to put him in a Cup car, albeit maybe not a Hendrick car, but a Cup car in 2015. What they elected to do was they elected to wait out Jeff Gordon's retirement, which ended up happening after 2015. Chase ran an extra season in Xfinity, which I think some people will argue maybe wasn't necessarily needed. I thought it was. I thought it kind of matured Chase a little bit. I think not winning that championship and not being a back-to-back champion kind of humbled him a little bit more. I think it showed him that this was not going to be as easy as it was for his team owner. And this was a hard deal. Going into Cup, 16, I think we all kind of know that was a rough year for Chase. He was learning quite a bit. Did not really have the flashes of brilliance that I think some people thought were going to happen. Then you get to 17 where he starts to kind of put some races together. Just some frustrating races. Late in the season, he has a shot at Dover to win, screws up on a late race restart, had a shot at Michigan. Again, a late race restart kind of screwed him up. Then you get to 2018, and you could tell the frustrations were starting to mount for Chase. Just race after race after race, those guys were having tough times, whether it was pit calls, whether it was late race restarts, whether it was just putting himself in some bad spots. Chase just really struggled. And, some people were starting to say maybe Chase is overrated. Maybe Chase is overhyped. Maybe Chase is this. And then he goes out and answers to all the critics by going out and winning at Watkins Glen at a track that is not easy to win at by any stretch of the imagination, a track that a lot of these guys that are active Cup drivers have not won on. He goes out and wins that race. And then everything changes. He goes to Dover. He wins Dover going away. And then, you get to 2019 where he has a breakthrough season. He's winning at the Roval, in a race that he wrecks, basically. Going into turn 1, he comes back and wins that race. He follows up a win at Watkins Glen. and he's having that season. And then this year it starts out, he has that race at Bristol. Like I said, you think he's going to win that. And him and Logano get into a skirmish. And, um, that kind of was a race that he lost. Then we go on the coronavirus break. And we end up with that long break. And we come back and we have the Coca-Cola 600, which Chase basically should have won. If not by a bad pit call by Alan Gustafson. And that's a coulda, woulda, shoulda. Brad Keselowski wins that. Then you get the Wednesday race at Charlotte. Chase Elliott comes back and wins. Chase should have won the race at Darlington even too. Kyle Busch punts him from the race lead late in that race and loses there. So Chase should have won the comeback, the second race at Darlington, not the comeback race. The comeback race Harvick had covered. But the second race that Hamlin won, that should have been Chase's race as well. So, there's three races right there I just gave you that Chase should have won. The Coke 600, the Bristol race, and the second race at Darlington. And then you have, he comes back and kind of goes through a slump. All right. They kind of have a little bit of a slump. Then they go to Daytona, to the road course, a track that he's never been to, a track that none of these guys have ever been to, with some exceptions. And he goes out and wins it. And I think that was kind of like the beginning of this is going to be a special year for Chase. I really thought at the very least this was going to be a step forward. He was going to make the championship 4. I kind of thought that it was going to be a good experience for him, a learning curve for sure, being in that Final 4. But then he goes out and he won the Roval again. So you're like, okay, this guy's repeating at tracks that he's been good at, which is good. It's a good sign. But you're sitting there and you're saying, man, he's got to win at some of these other places. He's got to, I know next year there's 6 road course races, but you can't tell me that all Chase is ever going to be remembered as is a hell of a road racer, and he wasn't much good on the ovals. Well, then he answered all those critics by winning at Martinsville in a pressure situation where, as I just told you, in 2017, he screwed up a lot of those situations. In fact, him and Denny Hamlin almost had a fight at Martinsville in 2017. Excuse me. So they almost had a fight then in 2017. And now he comes back and he wins at that same track. That gets him into the Final 4 the following week at Phoenix. And, Chase goes out and has the cards stacked against him once again. And he's got to go through the tail end of the field because of pre-race inspection failures. And he's got to drive through 40 cars in order to win the race. And he does it. So, congratulations to Chase. Like I said, a big win. I know that the town of Dawsonville went absolutely berserkos on Monday because he showed up with his entire team, which I thought was an incredible gesture by Chase to bring the entire team with him. I thought that was really cool. I think that meant a lot to the community, that it wasn't just Chase, it was Chase and the team. I think that meant a lot to Chase. I think that meant a lot to that race team. And I think it goes to show you that Chase knows that it's not just one person that wins on that organization, it's the whole team. So that was pretty cool watching those burnouts. I know some of you out there that are going to be listening to this episode were there watching it live. So I know that was a pretty cool experience for some of them that were out there watching it. So, and like I said, congratulations to the Chase Nation. I know all of them are going to be partying for days and days and days to come. So a big championship for Chase, hopefully the first of many. He joined some pretty elite company by winning, obviously, a championship. There's only, I think, 44 or 45 guys that have won a cup championship. So he's in pretty illustrious company there. And, he's now forever going to be remembered as a 2020 champ. And that's a big accomplishment for that young man at 24 years of age. And like you said, he's got probably another 20 years in him. So I'll be interested to see how many more Chase Elliott is able to rack up. We'll be remiss if I didn't really quickly touch on a few individuals that were going through their final race weekends. First and foremost, I mean, obviously the 7-time champ, Jimmie Johnson, retiring. Jimmy has meant so much to the sport. Quite literally is this generation's best driver, for sure. A lot will argue whether or not he's the greatest of all time. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers, if you ask me. With Petty, Earnhardt, and I'd say David Pearson has got to be on that Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers as well. If you had to put 4 faces up there, those would be the 4 I would go with. Jimmy's going to be sorely missed. I mean, here's a guy that quite literally had 1 Busch win to his name. Somebody that most people that are fans that remember Jimmy coming up did not think that this kid was going to be much of anything. But boy, did Jeff Gordon and Ricky Hendrick have us all wrong. Phenomenal pick, phenomenal discovery. Absolutely one of those storybook kind of deals. I'm sure one day the story is going to get put down into a book and it'll be a bestseller because I mean, still to this day, you can't sit there and make this stuff up. What Jimmy went through in order to be a champ 7 times in this sport is quite incredible. Another guy that's stepping away from the sport, obviously Matt Kenseth, for now, I think the 3rd time officially. I think is calling it a career, and I think this is it. For a guy that has quite literally been my favorite driver for the last 7 years, officially, but was always one of the guys I rooted for. He was my second favorite for many, many years before that. But we're gonna miss seeing Matt at the racetrack. I really wish I could have seen him race one more time in person, but I was very, very fortunate that the last time I did get to see Matt race was in 2018 at Dover, which was the last time I was able to see him in person. And I was able to meet him that day, get an autograph that day, thank him that day. So for me, I was okay with the closure. But those things happen. And then really the other person that you would have to, kind of think about is some of the media people that were stepping away. You look at Winston Kelly. It was his final race on the MRN call. All right, so Winston's still going to be doing his deal with the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but a fantastic radio career. Always loved listening to him on the MRN calls, whether it was Pit Road or maybe some of the feature stuff that he's done over his career. I think Winston Kelly has always done a great job with that. Obviously, Chad Knaus' last race on top of the pit box for Hendrick Motorsports as a crew chief. Now he's going to move into his new role of the competition director over there. And we also found out it was Chris Devota's last race with NBC. So some media members stepping away, and then we found out Alan Cavanna is leaving Fox as well. So a few folks leaving, and then Ricky Craven was officially getting out of NASCAR as well. So some big names leaving the sport. Obviously, last races for Levine Family Racing, Bob Levine and his wife, I think Sharon's her name, are leaving, as well as Bob Germain and Germain Racing, and we're going to miss all of them. So would be remiss if we didn't mention them in the surmise of this 2020 season. I will say this as just an overall summary of 2020. As far as NASCAR goes, this has been a season that I don't think any of us will ever forget, whether that's because of the pandemic, whether it's because of the amount of races that we had at one shot, whether it was going to Darlington 3 times in a season, whether it was going to Charlotte, like 3 times as well. It was a pretty unique year going to Daytona, going to the road course for the first time ever for all 3 series was kind of cool. The Indy road course, which was something that we knew was going to be on the docket, was kind of neat. The double headers I thought were really interesting. The Wednesday races were very nice. I just thought overall, despite all the stuff that we've gone through with the pandemic, this was a really interesting 2020 season. And I think that this will be one that we'll remember for a lot of different reasons. Whether you're a fan of Chase Elliott, whether you're a fan of Sheldon Creed or Austin Cindric, notwithstanding, I think we're all going to remember this season and what this season meant. Kudos to NASCAR to get a whole season in without a lot of really big delays. As far as we didn't miss a race because of a major COVID outbreak, amongst drivers or crew guys. I know we had some crew guys, pit crews late in the season miss a race here or there because maybe one team member tested positive. They kept the whole team home instead and just used the backup crew. So I think that those were kind of minimal. I think the only ones I knew of was William Byron and then Matt Kenseth's pit crew this weekend at Phoenix. Had a member test positive, so they kept his normal pit crew home, but they used a backup crew to pit their car. So a seamless thing. We had obviously Austin Dillon missed a race, Jimmy Johnson missed a race with COVID, but those might have been false positives. We really don't know. We don't have an answer on those, but I would sooner think that those were. So overall, a really good year. Kudos to the series for putting on a fantastic season. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. On the other side, I'm going to debate quickly whether or not it pays to keep guys after they win a championship in the series that they're in. It's an interesting topic. It was something I was thinking about this week, and I want to share my two sides to this, why I think it works and why I think it might not work. So you are listening to the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I am Bobby Bailey, and we'll see you on the other side of this break. All right. One last little segment to go. And we got to get the 2021 news in there. I know. Again, I knew we didn't have enough time, so that's kind of did what I did. But we got you guys. Hopefully it'll be just a little bit longer. This is gonna process for a little bit. So again, if you guys have any questions, anything that you guys want to know about silly season or talk about the 2020 championship races, feel free to do that in the comments on Twitch and on YouTube. Make sure you guys are following us on all of our social. Facebook, it's facebook.com/thecrewchief. On Twitter, it's @thecrewchief. On Instagram, it's @crewchiefs corner. And we're also on TikTok @crewchiefs corner. You guys can follow us, stay up to date on all the latest news, info, when we're going to do our podcast, when they're coming out, when they're available for you to listen on your favorite podcasting platform. So be sure to be tuned in to all of our social media this all season as we continue on the podcast and get you guys through this upcoming off season. We're only 94 days away from the Daytona 500 for 2021. So it'll be approaching quicker than you think it will. So, all right, guys, one last segment. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crew Cheese Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey bringing you the latest in the 2021 news. And then I did tease before we took that break the move up of drivers to other series. So we'll get into that as well. So first, the 2021 news, we'll kind of roll through them real quick. The first piece of news that we found out is Daniel Hemric is going to go to Joe Gibbs Racing. He's going to drive the 18 in the Xfinity Series full-time, replacing Riley Herbst, who appears to be headed to Stewart-Haas Racing to replace Chase Briscoe, who's moving up the Cup, obviously, as we know. So we expect a formal announcement for Herbst coming in the next coming weeks, I would assume, maybe even in the coming days. Ryan Preece is back at JTG Daugherty, according to FrenchStretch.com and several other sources out there are reporting the same thing. So it sounds like Preece is back in the 37. So basically what that leaves us with is Corey LaJoie still looking for a ride. He's the favorite over at Spire Motorsports for a seat. I would say the other driver that's looking really good there would be Garrett Smithley. I know Ty Dillon's name has been asked about. There were some pages out there hinting that he's got a deal at RCR with a third charter. Stay tuned on that. Travis Mack has officially taken the job as a crew chief for Trackhouse. That's the Justin Marks Cup team that Daniel Suarez will be driving for starting at Daytona in 2021. Travis was formerly with Hendrick Motorsports. He was also at Junior Motorsports before that. And then I think he was also he was a crew chief for Casey Kane at Levine Family Racing with that 95 team for I think that was 2018 as well. So Travis Mack's over there. Then we also found out that Freddie Kraft is going to be Bubba's spotter for 2311 Racing. So that got formally announced. We also know that trying to think what else that we found out. Well, we know that Chase Purdy is now going to be over at GMS Racing. He's going to be driving that truck. I guess that's being vacated by Brett Moffitt. He'll be in that truck. I'm guessing that's the number he's going to be in. So we found that out as well. Brett is going to be over at Auer Motorsports. He's going to drive the 02 for Robert Auer and those guys over there. So I think that's going to be a great move. I think Brett's, he's got the talent. We know he does. And that's a pretty good little race team over there. They only have I think 3 or 4 people that work in that shop. So small team, but a lot of heart and a lot of punch out of that organization, especially with cars that used to be GMS cars. So kind of a irony how that all worked out. But Brett Moffitt over to Auer Motorsports in 2021. So I think those are all the real news things that we found out. I think now is time to talk about the debate. So of the week, I guess I'm going to call this the debate of the week, the topic of the week, whatever you guys want to call it. So I was thinking about, this past week or, really getting ready for the show. And I was thinking to myself, I said, what would be a good topic to discuss? What would be something that, people might be interested in talking about? And I think it was, when Austin Cindric won the championship, I was thinking about the guys that get moved up too quick. And I was thinking about, examples of when guys were held back after winning championships. And I was going back and I was thinking about Dale Jr. for a minute, because I was thinking, Jr. won that championship in 98. What was really holding Dale Sr. back from putting Jr. in a Cup car in 99? I think what was holding him back, part of it was that 98 was their first year in Cup with the EI. And I think they kind of had a rough year at Steve Park. And I think they really wanted to get their feet under them. And I think they didn't want to add that second team until they had another year under their belt, which is part of the reason why Dale Jr. stayed in the Busch Series that extra year. But then I look at other people that kind of followed that path. You look at Chase Elliott, for example. All right. Chase won the championship in the Nationwide Series in 2014. 2015, he could have been a Cup driver. Hendrick could have made a deal with somebody and put him in a Cup car. They didn't. So they held him back. He kind of had a mediocre season. He really didn't have a great year. He won a race at Richmond, but that was about all he did the whole season. So then I was thinking about Austin Cindric. And I was thinking about, Chase Briscoe's getting moved up to Cup next year, but Cindric is being held back a year, and Cindric won the championship. So here's a guy that now is a Xfinity champ that's being held back a year. But yet then you have Briscoe who's being moved up a year. And then I was thinking about William Byron. Think about this. William Byron won the championship in 17 and got thrown into a Cup car in 18. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, between Chase Elliott and William Byron, who got the better benefit? Did Chase end up is Chase ending up benefiting from having that extra year in Xfinity, whereas William Byron only had 1 year of Xfinity, didn't win the Truck Championship, got moved up, won the Xfinity Championship, got moved up, but now he's been kind of struggling a little bit in the Cup car. But I think William Byron, if you go and look at William Byron, William has that win this year at Daytona. His first career Cup win. I think it finally sort of worked for him. I think everything started clicking. I think it's gonna take some time, but I think William Byron is gonna win more races this season coming up. I think 2021 is gonna be a breakout year for William Byron, and I do think that that's what's gonna make the difference here. I also believe that we will see, Chase Elliott continue to do well. I think Chase is gonna have a great year, but really to get back to this debate, I think what's going to be telling is how Briscoe does in this car. Now, I don't know if this was. I know where what some of the optics of this is. Some of the optics of Briscoe being in this 14 car is there's 6 road course races on this schedule. All Briscoe's got to do is win one of these races, and he's in the playoffs, and he's got a shot at it. But I also think that Stewart-Haas was looking at this as, do we keep Bowyer around for a year, which they could have. They could have convinced Clint to stay. And I don't even think if this really needed to be a situation. I really think they could have kept Bowyer around one more year and then let Bowyer leave in 2022 when the new car came out. I think that would have been a perfect scenario. What I do think this is going to do is it's going to give Briscoe the opportunity to have a clear path to be the 2021 Rookie of the Year. And I think this is also going to give Austin Cindric a clear path to be the 2022 Rookie of the Year. So we'll see how it all pans out. But overall, I think keeping the guy the extra year helps. I think it's beneficial. I think Dale Jr. was much better off having that other year. I think Chase obviously was better off having that extra year. Sometimes I think throwing these guys in the Cup cars, it just doesn't help them. I think you look at Logano. It took Logano a long time to kind of figure Cup out. I think Erik Jones is going to be another one of those guys. Yeah, he's got 2 wins, but Logano had 2 wins when he left Gibbs. So I think it's going to be one of those odd deals where Erik Jones is going to figure it out. It might not be at Richard Petty Motorsports. It might be an opportunity after that. But I think Erik Jones is gonna surprise some people. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is kind of our 2020 off-season plan. So I've been mentioning this quite a bit. We are going to do 3 more NASCAR for Rookie podcast episodes. There will be 3 more of them. I don't know when I'm going to get them all done or when they're going to happen, but they will happen. The other thing that's going to happen is the week of Thanksgiving. So not this next week, but the week after, the week of Thanksgiving, there won't be a brand new episode of Crew Chief's Corner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick a couple of my favorite clips, my favorite segments, and I'm going to put them together, and that's going to be the Thanksgiving special episode, okay? The week of Christmas, there will be another special episode. I'll pick more segments that I liked during the season, and that'll be the Christmas special edition. And then the week of New Year's, we're going to do the exact same thing. So those are the 3 weeks that we will not have an actual brand new edition of Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. And also, obviously, the 3 weeks that we do NASCAR for Rookies won't have a brand new Crew Chiefs Corner podcast attached to it. The NASCAR for Rookies episodes will be basically in that bonus season that's out there. They will be in that bonus season, and they're going to be bonus episodes. So yeah, I'm taking 3 weeks and not doing anything, but at the same time, I'll be giving you guys three extra episodes of NASCAR for Rookies, and that's kind of somehow even out. So what I plan on doing is starting next week, we will kind of do a topic show. So we're going to talk about the Rising Stars is going to be the next little series we're going to do. So we'll talk about some of the Rising Stars, I think, in the Truck Series and Xfinity. So that'll be one episode, and we'll talk about Rising Stars and Cup. I think the week after, we'll also sprinkle in any 2021 news in these episodes as well as they happen. There will also be some season previews. So once we get into January, there'll be, I think, 3 episodes of season previews. We will go through the schedule for each one of the series. So there'll be a Truck Series preview show. There'll be a Xfinity Series preview show, and there'll be a Cup Series preview show. We'll go through the schedule. I'll kind of pick who my playoff drivers will be. I'll pick a championship for. I'll pick a champion. And we will also do some early entry list stuff. I don't know when that's exactly going to happen. I would say that's going to be around January as well. I would say the season previews are going to probably be the end of January, beginning of February. The early entry list stuff will be probably the beginning of the month of January, and we'll have all of that put together. I know Toby Christie already did one for, I think, all 3 series, which is great, but I'm going to wait for things to get a little bit more solid before we do ours officially, but we will do our unofficial entry list for Daytona like we've been doing the last few years. I know it's been a popular thing. And then I think the only other thing that I plan on doing this offseason for any kind of podcasting is we're going to do maybe a one-off episode for diecast. So I might do a diecast episode where we talk about maybe my favorite diecast of the year and some stuff like that. But that is kind of the plan of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast this off season. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. We're going to try to, like I said, have something new published every week except for the week of the holidays. So like I said, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, there will be no brand new episodes, but there will be a new episode, but it will be some re-airs of some segments that I enjoyed, whether it was race recaps, whether it was news segments, or just straight up topics or whatever. I'm going to put that together on those weeks so that you guys have something to listen to that's new-ish. So hopefully you guys will enjoy those and enjoy Thanksgiving upcoming in a couple weeks. Hopefully you guys will be able to celebrate with your family as much as you can. Stay safe out there. Be well. Enjoy the weather. I know it's been kind of dreary here on the East Coast the last few days, so hopefully you guys aren't being flooded out or anything like that. But enjoy. Have a good Thanksgiving. We'll catch you guys next week with another episode of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social, which is going to roll right after this segment. And, be sure to tell your friends about the podcast. Thank you guys for listening and for all the support. And we'll catch you next week here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, and that does it. So I don't see any questions. I don't see anything. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on Twitch and on YouTube. I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you guys next week with another episode of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast here on Twitch and on YouTube.